What's up, Buffalo Bills fans? Lots been going on since I did a last video. We've had Brandon Beane officially and formally introduced, if you will. Gonna kind of go all over the board with this video as I usually do. I'm just gonna take it, run with it, see where it goes. So I'm not have any plans. Just all the kind of hit on all the stuff that's going on. Maybe some stuff that probably is going to happen, and maybe some stuff I'd like to see happen, so we'll see. But here we go. Like I said, being formally introduced by the Bills, and he's pretty much filled out his, the new One Bills Drive, Buffalo Bills personnel department, pretty much. They did rehire 3 scouts from the prior regime. Doug Majeski, Brian Fisher, and Gerald Dixon. Gerald Dixon was the shortest tenured of the 3. Only had been with the Bills for 4 years as a pro scout. Basically goes and does the advanced scouting of teams that they're going to play. That's basically what a pro scout does. Dennis Hickey, former GM of the Dolphins, after the whole Jeff Ireland debacle down there, if you're familiar with that, that was a mess, and he kind of was thrown in there. Only lasted a year as GM. He's there as the senior college scout. Lake Dawson, remember when he played with Notre Dame as wide receiver, let alone Chiefs, is the assistant director of college scouting. I don't know if they're going to hire a director of college scouting. Maybe they make a few more hires. It looks like a little bit lighter of a crew than they had. They had, including Whaley prior. We'll get to him in a minute, as we all know. 18 guys. So it looks like a little bit of a lighter crew right now. Maybe they add a few more guys. We'll see. The 2 big ones were Joe Sheehan and Brian Gaine. Basically, and also Malik Boyd was as director of pro personnel from the Arizona Cardinals, which I like. Become a very good organization, well respected under Steve Keim, and I believe his name is Terry Donahue. McDonough. I'm sorry. I think it's Terry McDonough. I know he's if you remember back in the day, McDonough used to do he was basically the only insider, and he was the guy, like, every owner liked him and they would tell him everything, and he would do like a little, he was the Adam Schefter before Adam Schefter. Seriously, there was only one, and Will McDonough, and that's his grandson. But okay, I digress. Going off on tangents here. But it looks like the way it's set up now, with obviously McDermott being the biggest voice in the room. Sheen, Gain, and Bean are going to be the top of the food chain when it comes to decision makers at One Bills Drive. Terry, obviously, but I think he will default to McDermott. So I kind of put those 1A, 1 being clearly McDermott, 2, maybe I'll say 1A or 1B being Bean, because I think McDermott will lean on Bean. Sheehan, Gain, those 2 are going to be the main voices in the draft room and in the personnel department going forward. Speaking of personnel departments, we heard from former Bills GM Doug Whaley on SiriusXM. I don't have any clips of the radio show to play, but I had some excerpts up, and I ended up closing them out. But they were some of his comments, asinine, just not very well thought out. Kind of, I don't know. Let's say threw Rex Ryan under the bus there with his the Bills will be more organized and not beat themselves. Hopefully that'll be the case. But yeah, it was interesting hearing him talk and just see what he was gonna say. And obviously the biggest comment was about the quarterback, and looking back on it, I come to the conclusion I think he was one of those guys because he would say he was old school, and really think he thinks that the quarterback wasn't as important as it really is. I think he thought you could win with a run game and defense. I have to believe that. As you look at the way he was with the organization 7 years, the way the quarterback position was bungled in those years, just bungled, fumbled, and just neglected as badly as any. You know, at least Cleveland was taking swings at first round quarterbacks. I'll give them that credit. You know, Miami Dolphins were taking swings on Chad Henne and Ryan Tannehill and Matt Moore, who always seems to beat the Bills every time he plays them. For the Dolphins, I'll give him that credit. But yeah, so him, just one of those guys, and it kind of makes you think about the one voice policy. Bean's been kind of making the circuit here. Very well spoken guy. Seems like he really has a clear, concise way of speaking. Everything that I've seen or hear, that those two are very much in line, like they said, a streamlined approach, in-line approach to what they want to do, and that's really, for us Bills fans, that's a really encouraging thing. Also, a comment being made recently on the John Murphy show was rather interesting. I don't know if you've heard it or not. I'm not going to play the clip. I don't want anybody like copyright things or any of that stuff. I don't want to have to paste that fair usage thing. So I'll leave it out. There's no need. Basically said Sean McDermott went back and looked at some of the last year's practices because they taped those, and was not pleased with the pace of practice or the tenor of practice, if you will. Is that a shock? What's that like? Not a shock at all. Yeah. So, I mean, just a bunch of wild animals running around there for too long, and it's a shock when somebody comes in and starts sweeping out the old dust. Another fallout from today obviously was Bills making a couple of roster moves. We all know, former second round pick. Those are just as good as his firsts. Cyrus Kouandjio, gone, and it's two-pronged to me. It's a guy that had already been passed by on the depth chart by Dawkins, guy they just drafted. Guy played more versatile player. Played left, right, more athletic, younger. These guys brought him in. The weird offseason that Cyrus has had, hasn't really done much to distinguish himself. Played a somewhat okay at left tackle last year, but outside of that, seems incapable of playing right, which is weird, very weird. You think that would be an easier transition, and he's not a Bills player anymore. So, yeah, didn't quite have the stature to be pushed in at guard. I remember they were so desperate they were playing him at guard. Marone was just in love with playing every offensive lineman in every position, and the offensive lines were bad. It's like, why don't you just get a good 5 and leave them there? He just wanted to. Going back too much. I'm sorry. Going off on tangents here. Yeah, so he's gone. There's another pick, a Whaley pick that never bore fruit. And I honestly really hope that Sammy Watkins turns out to be, as we know, he's really good. I just hope that he stays healthy and becomes amazing in a Bills uniform. I really do. I don't care whose pick it was, just for his sake, our sake, the Bills' sake. I don't care. If Whaley wants to stand around and pound his chest about that, let him do it. I just want to see the guy become great in a Bills uniform. him saying he left the Bills with a parting gift, a second round pick, first round pick next year. Yeah, a delusional comment, being that he had no hand in the draft. I mean, he had a hand in it in the sense that, you know, he did all this well, they were doing the legwork. I would pretty much guess for the most of the time they were proceeding as if they were going to be there for 17 until the whole Sabres fallout went down and the Ghouls got edgy, saw the embarrassing situation they had there, and they're like, well, we fired this guy over here and we had this bumbling mess over here. Basically had a glorified gag order on him. And I was going back to what I was saying about, you know, Bean doing the media circle a little bit. I'm very interested to hear what McDermott says about the one voice thing. I assume that's going to be the majority of the time McDermott is going to be speaking, but they obviously seem comfortable with letting Bean go out in front of a, you know, he actually it was very weird. Seems like new media policy at One Bills Drive and a whole new way of doing business. That's something that somebody told me recently, which is really good. Having better communication relations with the local media, a more cool environment, if you will, for them to go into, because it was a very contentious environment from what I heard, and not a very friendly one. So he went on the Joe Biscaglia podcast, answered a few interesting questions about quarterbacks. You guys go check that out. That was a really good interview by Joe B. He got Bean to answer some questions without actually answering them, which is a pretty good talent for a reporter, and he did a good job of that. So I would just tell you, go listen to it yourself and listen, you know, on iTunes or in the podcast. It was really good. And then McDermott himself went on the Tim Graham show and was, you know, it was a pretty standard interview. Rodak was on there with him. I know most Bills fans love Mike Rodak, but he's not as, you know, the Bills haven't made the playoffs 17 years. They're not going to get pats on the back from nobody. But it's very interesting to see the way that, you know, like Derek Boyko hire, things change in the in the media relations area. There's going to be there's a lot of crossover now, being very familiar with salary cap. Also, Sheen, from what I understand, very familiar with salary cap, and you have Gain. So there's new decision makers and the marginalizing of guy phasing out of a Jim Overdorf. You know, Russ having no hand in the football department, all his vestiges basically gone. You know, because Doug Whaley was the last one. There's really nobody else there, and those are good things. Those are great things for us Bills fans. Let me tell you, I wanted to read you a little note I got from somebody who gives me, you know, a little tidbit here or there from time to time about the Bills. You know, no insider or nothing like that. I just, you know, hopefully, you know, have been, you know, pretty good. But just for you guys, whole new dress code. Even for non-football ops people, very businesslike in how they deal with people, a customer relation style approach. The old guard was pretty much, don't like how we do it, oh well. And it doesn't sound like much, but it is. Because, you know, we heard things, even the Marone comment of you'd have to be a saint to win here. He walks out of the door. $4 million for head coach is a drop in a bucket, because if you rehire the guy, he's getting a pay grade. They spun it as he went and tried to strong arm the Bills for more money, and he walked out the door. Or he wanted more power. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. But, you know, Malarkey, who's now a head coach again, go figure, walks out the door over 13 years ago. You can't get people to come coach there. frugal, penny pinching all over the place in that regard. This person, it just, all that piecemeal absentee ownership environment, look what it bred. Nobody's accountable for anything, nobody answerable to anybody, nobody's owning up to anything, won't announce who their head coach was. They are embarrassing a contract extension for Jerron. The time they said that Ralph was going to go out and do the Hall of Fame speech at a halftime of a game, but that game happened to be the Bills 6-3 loss to the Browns at home, which was embarrassing. So at halftime they pulled the plug and just didn't tell anybody. Things like that. It's just making it up as they go along, type of thing. Just those little things. It just their overall way of doing business there has just been broken for so long, and it is so good. And I was just citing tons and tons of examples for you guys from what I think are big things and little things that just lead up to the mess that we have and had and hopefully completely gone, because those people have either been fired or marginalized or totally phased out. And those are great things for us Bills fans. They really are. They really are. Because the demolition man, Sean McDermott, came in there with his C4 and just laid it down on people. And if Bean wanted to come in there and make some changes, well, good for him too. Good for him. Let them both. And then Terry and Kim have empowered them to that end. So great. Because the people that were there weren't doing anything good. And there was too much of a track record of failure otherwise. They had that going for them. That type of remember that, the word we all hate, continuity. They had bad continuity for a really long time. So they actually did have continuity. Remember that one. But yeah, it's a really exciting time, Bills fans. It really is. I'm sure all of us are really, really hopeful and curious and anxious to see where this organization, this team, this coaching staff, this new personnel department goes from here. And they don't seem like they're afraid to make changes here. They cut Cyrus. They got rid of the fifth quarterback, Josh Woodrum, I believe. Woodrum. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Brought in another wide receiver, Rod Streeter, veteran. Had a pretty decent season a while back with the Raiders. It's kind of bounced around since. Nice size. And they're not resting on Philly Brown, Jeremy Butler, and Andre Holmes. I think they're going to continue to churn that position and try to get the best guys out there, which is good. And it's a lot more than I can say for what they did last year. Having let, you didn't match for Hogan, and I wasn't as asked about that as most people. I was actually very happy they didn't match for Gillislee. If you would have put a second round tender on him, nobody would have bid at it. They saved money, a lot of money, and they got a fifth round pick out of it. That's good. That's good business for a guy you signed off the street. That's great. That's the way I want them. We should want them to do business going forward, not trading all these mid-round picks for nothing, like Bryce Brown, Mike Williams, and the 2 4s in the Sammy trade, an extra 4 to go up and get Ragland. Just dumb shit like that. You don't do those things. But it's going to be... They signed Wes Sexton to, I believe, was a pretty athletic-looking tight end. He was a guy that got drafted a few years ago with the Jets. Didn't stick there. They just seem to be very not... They don't really seem to care about the tight end position with the New York Jets. I don't know what it is, or they just don't seem to care about it. No, they took Jay Samara a few years ago. He didn't pan out for them at all in Tennessee now, but they just don't really seem to care about it. And I will talk about the other teams in the division from time to time because that's important. If this football team wants to go anywhere, they're going to have to make hay in the division. And Dolphins took a jump on them last year. That's obvious. Got pounded by went back and forth with them in both games and could have easily won both games. But when you're getting jacked up for 200 yards a pop by the same guy, and you're up by a certain amount of points, and you have positions in the ball game in the second game at home where you could have put it to bed, it's the tackling effort in that second game was just deplorable. Out in the first game, it was awful too. So, yeah, we'll see, Bills fans. It's really exciting time. Brought in Gerald Hodges for a linebacker for a visit yesterday. That seems like a fit. Maybe they sign him, maybe they don't. I know he was here with the New York Jets today. I know that for a fact. So he seems to be making the rounds. Maybe they're just gathering, intel, like maybe for a future signing. I know teams that make post June 1st cuts, they get a little extra money come June 1st. Bills designated Aaron Williams as one of those. I think they get an extra like 2 point something or 3. Still helps. So we'll see where they go with some of these signings. I know they saved like over $1 million by releasing Cyrus today. That's good. That's money you're saving right there, and that's what they should be doing. They should be very shrewd, very tactful in the way they hand out money, and not just be handing them out like free pancakes at breakfast in a soup kitchen. They can't do that. Cannot do that. And there's just it feels different. It really does. I hate saying that in this infantile stage. It really does feel different. It tastes different. It smells different. They're going out of their way to even just be boring and not make waves, headlines. They want to function like a real football franchise, a football organization. They want to conduct themselves like that. They want to do business like that. They want to, and hopefully that leads to winning. Hopefully it leads to winning. So, all right, Bills fans, I'm going to make this short. 22 minutes isn't too short, but it's shorter than some of the other ones I've done. So, recently anyway. So, you guys have a good rest of the week. Take care. Friday's right around the corner. So, have a great Memorial Day weekend. Be safe. Enjoy it. And have a lot of fun. All right, Bills fans, until next time, take care.